Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Sorry for the break last week, but today I have another gameplay for you guys. So without further ado, let's have a look at the opening hands. I'm on the play with my Roger Tavesh Turbostorm list. My opening hand consists of Scalding Tarn, Ancient Tomb, Lightning Bolt, Wheel of Misfortune and Vampiric Tutor. For my London Mulligan I put Wild Magic Surge and Cabal Therapy under my library. I kept this hand after mulling to 5 because it will allow for a turn 2 wheel. Death is second, piloting Tavesh Kraum. His opener consists of Bloodstained Mire, Dark Ritual, Ragavan, Mystical Tutor and Toxic Deluge. For his London Mulligan he put Snap and Fierce Guardianship under his library. He kept this hand to be able to steal cards with Ragavan and potentially clean the board against Najeela. Ruff goes third with his Inalla Wizard chess deck. His opening hand consists of Flooded Strand, Mana Vault, Malevolent Hermit, Dockside Extortionist, Spellseeker and Mystical Tutor. For his London Mulligan he put Thassa's Oracle under his library. Ruff kept this hand because it allows him to go for a turn 2 win attempt with counter backup. Cedilio is last with his Najeela midrange list. His opener has Gemstone Caverns, Exotic Orchard, Chromox, Dockside Extortionist, Eladamri's Call, Abrupt Decay and Stronghold Arena. He kept this hand because he would be able to accelerate with Gemstone, and having a Dockside as the last player can be a huge mana boost. As always, all the decks are linked down below, but now let's start with the actual game. Cedilio starts the game with a Gemstone Caverns in play, ditching a Chromox. I draw for turn, play a Scalding Tarn, cast Rograk, and pass. Death draws for turn, plays a Bloodstained Mire and cracks for a Volcanic Island. He then casts Ragavan and passes. Ruff draws for turn. He plays a Flooded Strand and cracks for a Volcanic Island. He then casts a Mana Vault and passes. Cedilio draws for turn. He plays an Exotic Orchard and casts Stronghold Arena and passes his turn. In his end step I crack my Scalding Tarn for a Badlands and cast a Vampiric Tutor. I then go to my turn, untap, draw, I play an Ancient Tomb, cast a Mana Crypt, I tap the Mana Crypt, flow 2 colorless, and I use one of the colorless to cast a Skullclamp. I then tap my lands to cast a Wheel of Misfortune. Wheel of Misfortune resolves, everyone chooses a number, and everyone except for Ruff gets to wheel. I then use my last mana to equip Skullclamp to Rograk and draw 2 more cards. I move to my end step and I have to discard 2 cards. Death untaps, draws for turn. He plays a Command Tower and swings in with Ragavan at Ruff, who flips into a land. Then passes his turn, Ruff untaps and casts a Dockside Extortionist, making 4 treasures on ETB. He then casts a Dark Ritual, floating 3 black mana, and he follows it up with a Malevolent Hermit. With Hermit on the stack, Death cracks his treasure and taps his Volcanic Island to cast a Dress Down. Dress Down resolves, stopping Ruffa, but he still has an Inalla trigger, which he uses to make a copy of Malevolent Hermit. He then swings that copy at me. And he passes his turn. Cedilio untaps, draws for turn, plays a Windswept Heath, which he uses to get a Tropical Island. He then taps out to cast Najeela. He then passes. I untap, draw, and play a Polluted Delta. I then pay 1 to cast a Dark Ritual. I follow up with a Cabal Ritual, and in response, Ruff decides to crack his Malevolent Hermit. I pay the 3 and get the extra mana boost from Cabal Ritual. I then cast a Demonic Tutor and exile a Simian Spirit Guide to cast an Underworld Breach, to which cEDH reacts with a Fierce Guardianship. The Fierce Guardianship counters the Underworld Breach, but I still have a Yawgmoth Will. And with Yawgmoth Will on the stack, Death decides to cast a Demonic Consultation. He names Force of Will, and he does not kill himself. He then casts Force of Will, pitching a Pact of Negation to counter my Yawgmoth Will. I then crack my Polluted Delta to get a Blood Crypt, and I use my last mana to cast a Rakdos Signet. I pass my turn, Death untaps and draws for turn. He swings at me with Ragavan, and I flip into a Stitcher Supplier. Death plays a Steam Vents untapped. He then casts a Stitcher Supplier, milling 3 cards. He then passes, and in his end step, Ruff casts a Mystical Tutor. He tutors up a Essence Flux on top of his library, untaps, takes 1 from Mana Vault and draws the Essence Flux. He casts it, targeting his Dockside in order to flicker it, but in response, cEDH casts a Deadly Relic, exiling Dockside Extortionist. Ruff then passes his turn, cEDH untaps and draws. He swings with Najeela, creating a Warrior token. He gets 2 Stronghold Arena triggers and flips into a Flooded Strand and a Wooded Foothills. He plays the Flooded Strands and cracks it to get a Tundra into play. And he then casts a Lavinia Azorius Renegade, which really sucks because it stops my payoffs, which I still had in hand. I then go to my turn and untap. I pay 2 to cast Rograk. I then equip Rograk with my Skull Clamp. Floating 1 mana. And drawing 2 cards. I play a Command Tower as my land for turn. And I tap 4 to recast Rograk. I still have 1 mana floating, and I use that to equip Skull Clamp to Rograk again and draw 2 more cards. I then pass my turn, and in my end step, Death casts a Vampiric Tutor. Fetches up a card and goes to his turn. He untaps, draws the card, he attacks with Ragavan, flipping into a Wishclaw Talisman. He then plays a Blood Crypt untapped and casts an Underworld Breach. cEDH reacts by casting a Swansong. Swansong resolves and it counters the Underworld Breach. Death continues by casting the Wishclaw Talisman, and he also immediately activates it, giving it to Ruff. He then passes his turn, Ruff untaps, takes 1 from Mana Vault, and draws a card. He plays a Badlands, and after thinking about what he could get with the Wishclaw Talisman, he decides to not use it because he does not have anything that is able to stop Najeela in the next turn. He passes. cEDH untaps. He draws for turn and plays a Gaia's Cradle. He taps the Cradle and the Exotic Orchard. To cast a Demonic Tutor. He gets a card and then casts a Silence. Silence resolves, and cEDH follows up with a Neoform sacrificing Lavinia. He fetches up the Revian to play, untapping the Exotic Orchard. He then moves to combat, swinging everything at me because I do not have any blockers. Najeela triggers, giving him 2 more warrior tokens, and then he has 4 Derevi triggers and 1 Stronghold Arena trigger. He flips into a Cryptolith Rite, and then his Derevi triggers resolve, uses those to tap and untap his Exotic Orchard to make Uberg mana, which he can then use to activate Najeela for an additional combat step. He can now do that over and over again for infinite combat steps and kill us with combat damage. GG. Well, this was a very cool game. It took 3 players to stop my win attempt. Rafa was also very close to winning, but a well-timed dress down ruined his attempt. Of course, cEDH was able to profit off of our turbo shenanigans and combo off with Najeela fairly safely. Well played. This pot was very proactive. In total the game lasted 4 turns, and the MVPs of this game were probably Dress Down and Lavinia, because they stopped the turbo decks from just going off. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment and subscribe. We are very close to 3k subs, and with your help we can reach it very soon. Join my Discord server if you want to play some games with us, and consider becoming a patron if you want to support my channel even more. This is Eisenherz, and auf Wiedersehen.